What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. We want to address a very challenging topic, a very volatile topic.
In our comments, it happens every single time that Bait Finesse BFS system shows up.
It's a big friggin' scam.
Yeah.
Is it though?
Is it?
I don't know. The jury is out because there's like half the field is going like, yeah, this shouldn't exist. Why do we even have this? And half the field's like, well, I love it.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
Roll on red.
They're all about it. They follow BurlyFishing and they're like all about that. They're buying off of Bait Finesse Empire. Yep. You know, they're subscribing to the.
They're buying alder barons, man. They're spending money on it. So
they're teaching us. They're like, hey, you bought the wrong stuff. Buy this 100%. Stuff instead.
And so the question that we want to have a discussion about today is because this happens a lot. The biggest comment that we get is, I don't need the BFS. I can do everything on BFS gear that I can do with a spinning setup. So, and we get this a lot, should it even exist? Should we even be making or promoting or talking about BFS gear, fishing, etc.?
Or should we ban it like forward-facing sonar?
And obviously the answer is going to be somewhere in the middle, but we're going to walk you through some pros and cons, right? The ones that we see the most often, the ones that we see in the marketplace today, and then we're going to talk about some of those in detail and then arrive at what we think is, you know, again, the answer is probably somewhere in the middle, but you get that at the end of the video.
And we'll try to be neutral on this, but you guys know we love BFS fishing, so let's get into it. So what are we talking about? We're talking about Bait Finesse Systems, or BFS fishing. BFS is where you're going to have, generally speaking, a smaller, lighter bait casting reel that has a smaller, much lighter, shallower spool on it. And you're going to use very light, small diameter line, although it's not necessarily lower pound test. A lot of this has like high breaking strength, especially if you get specific BFS line. Talking about things like Verevis, which comes in an X4, X8, which is 4 or 8 strand braided line. They also have a bass specific line, but you can see by the diameter there, it's 0.8, that's a 0.6. It's
10 to 15 pound break strength on those lines.
Yeah, and what this allows you to do is fish a lot of your favorite bait casting style techniques at a smaller size. You get to go finesse with it. We're talking tiny jerk baits, tiny topwaters, little baby jigs,
little chatterbaits.
Yeah, light chatterbaits, 1/32 ounce Texas rigs, like all sorts of stuff like that. And again, and tiny frogs as well.
Oh God, yeah, underrated.
Could you do those on spinning setups? For sure you could. We're gonna get into the pros and cons with this. But that is BFS, and where did BFS come from?
Yeah, how did we get here? Well,
how did we get here?
Overseas, usually in Japan, but also in China. What you see a lot of times is it's almost exclusively private water, but it's also extremely heavily pressured. There's not as much water, there's a ton of people, they're doing the fishing, and they're all in the same spots. They also have really, really clear water a lot of times. What does that mean? I need to be finessey, and I might need to be, the difference between that guy and me might be something as small as, or as specific as a jerkbait that's this long instead of this long, right? And so that's where it kind of originated, and it's worked its way over to the US domestic market. Now, we don't have necessarily the same situation that they do over there. So this is where we kind of get into the argument of like, do we even really need it? But that's where it's coming from.
So one important thing to think about too is a lot of people consider BFS to be like a fad. And the reality is it's not, it's just new to you. It's coming over from this Japanese domestic or Chinese domestic market. Now it's coming over to the American domestic market, and we're starting to see it more. It's now been in our market though for years.
Yeah,
like
long time.
I don't know.
5 plus for sure.
5 plus years.
And the one thing that a lot of people say is they're only doing BFS to make more money. Now, are companies marketing BFS to sell you something to in turn get a profit? Yes. Absolutely. That is not a question. No one would ever argue otherwise.
That's how the world works.
That is how, but are they just doing it to get you to buy something else? No, there's a demand for it, and it is here and it's real. So they're trying to meet that demand, right? They're not necessarily saying, hey, Paul and Jeff, Aggressive Average Anglers, go make BFS content because we need people to buy BFS reels so we can sell more reels. That's not what it is. They want to sell more reels, and they want to make money on those reels, but that's just the same reason that they have 5 different regular bait casting reels. Like, they're meeting a demand. They certainly would not be making it if the demand was this small and no one was buying or paying for them. They would not make it because they would take a loss. So they're meeting a demand that's already here. It's not the other way around.
And we and other creators like us are not like a part of a secret organization.
I'm not a cabal. I don't have a. Do you know of any cabals? Because if I could make money off a cabal, I'd probably join one. But they don't want me, and I don't know of any.
I am the deep state. So no, there's no like.
No, it's not a conspiracy.
There's no conspiracy here. Nobody's paying us to talk about BFS.
No.
We genuinely love it.
Yep.
We love supporting Bait Finesse Empire. They don't give us anything. Like, we just send people there because we want to.
I mean, sometimes they send us stuff, but we're not like making a check, right? And that's the same relationship. Again, we've talked about this on our channel a bunch. We don't have any sponsors, right? We may get discounted product, we may get free product, but we are not, it's not no quid pro quo. You send me something, I take a look at it, we make our own decision about it and whether or not to make content. So just to be clear, that's the setup. No one's cutting me a check to make BFS stuff or to make BFS content.
For example, I just recently spent a bunch of money on Bait Finesse Empire and they sent me this froggy. There's like 3 stretchy frogs in there.
Cool.
That's like what we get back.
And we're always transparent about how we got what we got. So whether it's a rod or a reel, we'll say, the company sent me this. No strings attached. We get to say whatever we want. That is how we got to where we got with this channel, just to be super upfront about that. So let's talk about some of the pros and then the cons of BFS, and then we'll discuss them a little bit. So this is gonna be a quick list. We'll get into some detail on this in a second. So let's talk about some pros.
It's fun.
It's just enjoyable. It's fun to tinker with. It's fun to try something that's new. And a lot of times when you try something new like BFS, you can adapt it to like normal fishing, right? So I can say, oh, I'm learning about this lighter line. I use Revis line on all my spinning setups because it's smaller diameter, but it's got the same break strength and the quality is really, really high. That's great. So I don't actually have Power Pro on any of my spinning setups anymore.
But like ultimately, it's just really fun to be able to continue to use a bait caster with lighter stuff. We do love ultralight stuff. In fact, oh my Josh, we made our own ultralight rod with monster bass. We put a lot of work into this thing, and we absolutely love this.
I fish it all of the time.
And I also love BFS. It just has like a different time and place for me. And in general, a BFS combo of sorts is on my boat, like all year round. So ultimately though, a lot of fun. I got to tell you, one of my favorite ways to fish BFS is actually ultralight Texas rig. So just throwing the mule fishing, this is my favorite one, the mule fishing burrow bug in this rodeo clown color. I throw that with a 1/32 ounce unpegged weight on that light line, and dude, it's so fun.
Now,
it gets bit like crazy.
And we'll get to some of the cons in a second. We'll talk about because someone instantly said in this video, in their brains or in the comment section, I can do that on a spinning reel. You're not wrong. You are not wrong. But here are some of the other pros to the BFS game. Speed, retrieve speed. So you do get the 8+ retrieve ratio, retrieve speed on the bait casting setups. And you can't get that in a spinning reel.
You see this? This is an 8:1 right
That's
there.
low. A lot of these are 8.3.
BFS.
A lot of these are 8.83. You also get some accuracy, right? Like that's with a bait caster, that's one thing that you're getting is a little bit more accuracy in like the flipping pitching range. We'll talk again. We're going to talk about some cons in a second. We're just talking about the pros.
There are cons.
There are definitely cons.
We will not dispute that.
The other thing too, like it's a bait caster, right? So you get more power and you get like that higher end, heavier drag. So versus like a spinning setup, you're relying on the quality of the drag and the line and the rod, and you're going finesse. So that drag is going to run and run and run and run. So I'm thinking like if I hook it to a catfish, I got to let it go for a couple of days. With the BFS setup, I get a little more power in there, so I can maybe horse that fish in a little bit more. It's different. It's a pro, but it's different.
From a more subjective standpoint, because we can neither confirm nor necessarily deny
it's not true for everybody.
But we feel that it's true. We feel that you can get a lot more casts in on a trip. So let's say we did a wade fishing video where you fished only a spinning combo, I fished only a BFS combo, which was actually your BFS combo at the time. And I was just getting tons and tons of casts in. Not that you couldn't necessarily do a spinning reel. Again, this is just
nitpicky little thing, but it's true. I mean, just
mechanically,
it's faster.
And then also precision-wise, I felt more accuracy running down that wade trip that we did versus a spinning setup. Again, subjective. You could definitely claim that. That's how we feel about it. So let's get into the cons.
100. So one of the cons, and probably the biggest one that people will call out is is that you don't need it, because a spinning reel can do a lot of what a BFS setup can do, and that is very true. You can get away with doing everything from like little paddle tails to, you talked about the bottom contact stuff.
You can frog fish on a spinning setup.
You can, but a lot of times you're gonna need more length, or you're going to need a bigger reel to do the same types of things. But regardless, it does cover a lot of the same spectrum. They overlap quite a bit. Next thing, the number 2 thing, or maybe the number 1, price. It's so expensive because a lot of this stuff is, there's not as big of a market as there is for the ultralight spinning stuff, and it's a lot of like really high-end, non-commercially available, like manufactured equipment, which means it's going to be more expensive. Also,
for now.
Yeah, for now.
Because hard to disagree, you can look at the Cast King Kestrel rod for $90. There's also a ton, if you go to Bait Finesse Empire, Cernoia makes a ton of value-conscious reels that are like rods. $70, $80, rods that are $70, $80. You know, the value is improving massively, especially we're benefiting from it coming over into the American domestic market because we're now creating this competition amongst those brands. You got Daiwa just dropped a brand new reel, and it's expensive.
But ours just dropped
it's
one.
It's $349 at the top end. I think $249 or $299 at the lower end. But it's Daiwa. It's going to be amazing. But then you look at Arc coming into the market with a $150 reel. You got Nako Fishing.
Performing at that level. Like such a good performing reel.
The Arc is like, it's an amazing reel. Or you can get the Cernoia Dark Wolf for about $80 on Bait Finesse Empire.
100%. And then there's a bunch of mid-range stuff that fish is super, super high end. This is the
Nako Outdoors Kingfisher.
Kingfisher, thank you. Again, performs really high end, but as a value. So it's getting better, but on the whole,
it's more expensive.
It's more expensive. Probably in the 20 to 50% range.
Will it ever be as cheap as spinning setups?
Maybe.
I don't think so. I don't think it ever will be because bait casters aren't.
In general. So that leads you to another thing. There's a disparity between spinning reels, like freshwater spinning reels, and freshwater bait casters. There's usually a huge disparity in price. $100 is like a cheap bait caster. $100 is a pretty nice spinning reel. So just that same disparity applies to BFS and ultralight as it does to conventional weights. So another thing, you can't slow down with a BFS reel, or it's a lot harder to go like make a 8+ speed reel fish like a 6-speed reel, like dee doo da doo. That can be really tough. And then distance-wise, so distance is a big thing with BFS. We're always focused on how far can I make an 1/8 ounce go or lower, like a couple of grams. How far can I cast it? We're always trying to extend that range, and that's where the expense comes in with a lot of these reels. Lighter spools, better bearings, lighter frames, longer rods that are even lighter and whippier, etc., etc. You already get all that with the spinning setup, and it's cheap. So that's where the overlap happens, and that's definitely a con of BFS.
And spinning reels don't bird's nest nearly as much.
Wind knots are a thing though. Like, don't kid yourselves, but it's not the same. Like you're gonna bird's nest with a bait caster ultralight way more often than you're gonna wind knot on an ultralight spinning setup.
One thing I will say though is if you're using the appropriate line, that smaller diameter line, it's also pretty slick. Like it tends to come out more easily, the bird's nest do, than your 50-pound test braid or your 65-pound test. You're done.
You never get bound. I don't think I've ever been bound up real hard where I had to like pick it out or even cut it. I've not had that happen. Less often. That's just not forever.
But it does happen.
But it's less.
So bottom line, what are the biggest arguments people have against BFS? Number one is a big one. We just don't need it. Like it's filling a gap in the market that actually doesn't exist. And that's most commonly what we see in our comments. It's not, the other point is it's too expensive, but that's not the most common comment that we see against BFS. Some of the time, but again, Cernoia. You can get high value, low cost, like it exists. So the too expensive argument isn't as much an argument anymore as it was if you were like, oh, well, you have to get a Shimano Calcutta. You don't. You definitely don't. No. I never will. And an Aldebaran. You don't have to get those.
And the cheap stuff is very effective. We talked about the Dark Wolf Ultra. We talked about the Zephyr. Those are, depending on your weight ranges, those are very, very serviceable. I own both of them, and I use both of them. And I have much more expensive options that I don't use a lot of times. So they are very... There's quality out, there's value to be had out there.
And again, more makes and models are coming out. More brands are dropping stuff in the domestic market for this, and it's only going to get better from here for those that are in.
It already is. The Arc BFS is like it's a new bar, and that bar will continue to get raised on value. Again, as the growth in the market the demand continues to grow.
So really, the only big argument is like, does it even need to exist? Again, is it filling a gap in the market that doesn't need it?
I think Bait Finesse Empire automatically dictates that people are excited about it. And even if they're just in it for the fun, they're like, oh, I tried this. It's super fun. I enjoy fishing this way. That is a valid reason to go buy something. We do this all. That's what we're all doing with all fishing stuff. We're like,
half the reason to buy anything.
Someone showed me how to fish, or I tried it on my own, and I thought it was cool. I'm gonna go get a new tackle box. I'm gonna go get a fishing backpack. I'm gonna go buy a kayak, a boat, a rod, a reel, more line, baits, whatever. Like, that is what we're all doing it right now. So when someone tries BFS, I'm like, oh, I thought this was really fun. Maybe I'm having more fun than I am with a spinning reel.
Yep.
That's an okay reason to want to do something. And so I think that right there validates the market, the demand in the market that is continuing to grow.
Bottom line, I get to fish really cool stuff like that, or like these.
Oh yeah, the buzzbait.
I love fishing a mini buzzbait on these
You
things.
actually can't do as good with a buzzbait with a spinning setup as you can with a bait casting setup. I totally forgot about that.
I had such a good day on this Jig Masters buzzbait last year. It was insane. You've got
yeah, that's a good call.
mini glide baits, for example.
So a lot of times if you wanted to fish that glide with a spinning setup, you'd have to go to a light or even a medium light in order to get the hook set and get the speed that you need to fish it appropriately. The BFS setup it's really set up for that perfectly.
Yep. 1/16 ounce or lighter chatterbaits, great option.
And someone will tell you that a jig, oh yeah, baby.
Small spinner baits.
Now that one you can go either way, but I feel
can.
like the medium weight jigs, like a 1/8 ounce jig, I do feel like is more effective with a BFS setup than it is a spinning setup. They both work, so you're not wrong, but one is a little bit better than the other.
This whole thing, all of these, just really, really fun
it's
and
enjoyable.
effective on a BFS setup.
Yeah.
Which again, you can fish a lot of that with a spinning. Some of them though, they excel on a bait casting setup.
True. So here's the take from our perspective.
And the take is hot.
The take
The
is
tea is toasty.
I don't know how toasty it is. Here's the thing. If for you and the way you fish, and if you've not tried BFS, I'd say you're missing something when you come into a comment section and say, we don't need it, it's not worth it, it should not exist. I think that you have to have tried it to have like a truly valid opinion, in my perspective. Because I said the same thing that you guys are all saying on the spinning side. I used to be like, yeah, we don't need it. I was like, no way. It's only fun, but that's not enough. I will go ahead and tell 2020 me, you were wrong, bruh. So I've gotten some BFS setups. I put the time and the money into it, and now, like Jeff said, it's usually one of the combos that's in my boat. Yeah. And so I think when it comes to validating your opinion and whether or not you want to spend your money on something and whether or not a market should exist, I think you have to meet a couple of criteria. One, there has to be demand. Right? Two, it has to do a couple of things uniquely, and I think you've hit both of those things with BFS. It does some things differently or better than spinning ultralight setups, and people are enjoying it, which means people are willing to pay money for it. So should the market exist? In our opinion, absolutely. It's validated by those two factors. Now, should everyone go buy a BFS setup tomorrow? Absolutely not. You can get away with your spinning setup. I wouldn't yuck anyone else's yum no. And I think that's what the vibe I get with the BFS hate comments is you're just yucking someone else's yum because you've never tried it, you don't understand it. That's where I think the miss is, in my opinion.
I mean, let's be real. That's the whole fishing industry comment section.
We toxic, bro.
That color worm sucks.
Chartreuse has never caught anything. You're an idiot.
Except that it does catch and you just don't like it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So if you guys feel that we are incorrect, then that's totally fine because that's your opinion.
Spaceman.
Spaceman.
And we will see you in the comments. Look, and again, it's okay if you don't like BFS or if you don't want to get into it or if it's not for you. That's totally cool. I'm not going to yuck your yum because if you want to stay in the spinning game, dude, do you. Our goal on this channel is to get you out fishing more often and to make sure you have as much fun as possible and spend, frankly, the least amount of money that you have to accomplish that goal. For some people, if they want to put the cash into BFS and have fun, that should be okay for them too.
Yeah, and that's how we feel about all types of fishing. You want a big kayak? Great, do it. You want to
sit inside, $50 used kayak?
Great, do it.
More power
But if
to
you
you.
want to light us up in the comment section, go for it. Don't
fun,
care.
bro.
Give me the engagement, please. Thank you. So that's how we feel about it. Let us know how you guys feel about it as well in the comments below. If this video is helpful for you, awesome. Then smash that like. Maybe be subscribed if you want to see more BFS content, because we will be out and about using these combos in our fishing videos, and we'll do more unboxings. We got tons of cool stuff that we pick up from Bait Finesse Empire, for example. So if you want to see some just really cool BFS specific or JDM market stuff, we do that. Right
Or
here.
Mule Fishing Supply Co. or Pig Jigs. I just realized we're...
If you want to support two domestic markets that are doing ultralight stuff, we got Mule Fishing and Pig Jigs, both great companies that we love to support, and they're both smaller companies. So support the little guys as much as you possibly can. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and we'll catch you on the next one.
We out.